Hello students. Today we are going to learn last topics of this chapter, and that is nucleus and microbodies. First of all, let me discuss about nucleus. So nucleus was first described by Robert Brown in 1831. We have already discussed about this. Okay, and the material of the nucleus stained by the basic dyes, okay, for the first time by the Fleming, and he had given the name chromatin. Okay, and normally a cell has only one nucleus. It is found that each cell will have only one nucleus, but some cell have more than one nucleus. Okay, and some mature cells even lack the nucleus, means do not have a nucleus. And such an example of a nucleus-less cells are mammalian RBC cells, that is a red blood cells, and CU tubes which are found in the plants. In this photograph, you can see some example which lack the nucleus. So first of all, here you can see mammalian RBC cells which do not have nucleus. Okay, then prokaryotic cell which we have discussed already about bacteria and all that. So whatever the prokaryotic cell do not have nucleus. Okay, and CU tube element in the plant cell. Okay, this is a vascular tubules. Okay, and these cells do not have any nucleus, and even in our body there are platelets in our blood. Okay, these platelets also do not have nucleus. So these four are the group of or we can say a list of cells which do not have nucleus. Cells have different stages of life. Okay, out of that one stage is an interphase. Okay, we will learn in detail in chapter number 10 which are the phases of a cell. So when the cell is under the phase of an interphase, at that time nucleus will be contain a nuclear envelope that is surrounding the nucleus, nuclear matrix that is also called nucleoplasm, then chromatin and nucleolus. So these four are a basic component of the any nucleus. Now let me try to understand a basic structure of any nucleus. So first of all, a outermost layer surrounding the nucleus is a nuclear envelope. Okay, so any eukaryotic cell have a characteristic feature that the presence of a nuclear envelope. As we have discussed already, prokaryotic cell do not have nuclear envelope, and that's why they are considered as a prokaryotes. Okay, and here we are talking about eukaryotic cell. So basic phenomena in these type of cells will have a nuclear envelope, means they will possess the nuclear envelope, and that is the differentiating them from the prokaryotic cell. So nuclear envelope, outer and inner membrane. Okay, so this is the nuclear envelope, inner and outer membrane, and then inside that you can see some pores are there. Okay, in between these nuclear envelopes some pores are there, and that pores are called as a nuclear pores. Okay, and here you can see in this, you can see here some cytoplasm like material is there, and it is called nucleoplasm inside the nucleus. It is called nucleoplasm, and the chromatin material that is made up of DNA is present in the nucleoplasm. Then surrounding that there is a cytoplasm. Okay, this is the nucleus. Surrounding that there is a cytoplasm of a cell. Then nucleolus. This is also very important structure in the nucleus. Okay, so this is a tiny dot-like structure that is a nucleolus, and here sometime endoplasmic reticulum may be connected with the nucleus. First of all, we will discuss about nuclear envelope. Okay, that is a basic component of any nucleus. So here we are talking about eukaryotic cell. So here always a nuclear envelope will be present. So it is a double layered membrane with a space between 10 to 50 nanometer, and that space is called, means the inner membrane and outer membrane. In between that two, one space is there, and such a space is having a 10 to 50 nanometer space, and that is called perinuclear space. Okay, and it is a barrier between materials in the nucleus and the cytoplasm. Okay, and outer membrane usually continuous with the endoplasmic reticulum and also bears ribosomes on it. This is the very important structure. Okay, so outer membrane is usually connected with the endoplasmic reticulum. Here you can see this is the endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, and it will may have some ribosomes on that. So it is connected with the endoplasmic reticulum and also bears ribosome in it. Nuclear envelope has a minute pores, okay, formed by the fusion of two membranes, and these pores are passage for the movement of RNA. As you know, this is the DNA content inside the nucleus. Okay, and during translation and transcription process, especially transcription process, when this nucleus will be convert their DNA into messenger RNA. Okay, then afterward, for the translation purpose, that mRNA must be transported outside the nucleus. Okay, and that's why these pores will play a very important role at that time when mRNA, which is prepared inside the nucleus, should be shifted in the cytoplasmic region. So these are the passage for the movement of RNA, especially mRNA and protein between nucleus and cytoplasm. Now let me try to understand more by using this diagram. So here you can see this is the outer membrane. Okay, as we have learned already that membrane is made up of double layer. So outer membrane is there. Okay, and this is the red color is the inner membrane, and in between whatever the whitish color space is there, that is called perinuclear space. Okay, and on the outer layer you can see along with the inner layer there are pores, and that is called nuclear pores. Okay, and sometimes what happens, these pores are directly connected with the cytoplasm. As you know, outer side is the cytoplasm. So this pore may be directly connected with the cytoplasm, and sometimes what happens, these pores are directly connected with the endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, that is a rough endoplasmic reticulum mostly. Because why it is called rough endoplasmic reticulum? Because over that you can see ribosomes are attached. Okay, on that you can see here this is greenish color, ribosomes are attached, and that's why it is considered as a rough endoplasmic reticulum. And here you can see in the nucleoplasm there is a DNA content. Okay, then this is the dot like structure, innermost dot like structure, that is called nucleolus. Okay, and the nuclear lamella you can see. Okay, next very important component of a eukaryotic nucleus is a nucleolus, and one or more non-membranous spherical bodies it is. Okay, it is a non-membranous spherical bodies. It is continuous with the nucleoplasm. Okay, and it is a site for the ribosomal RNA synthesis. That is a very important site for the ribosomal RNA synthesis. That is called rRNA synthesis. So let me summarize what is a nucleolus. Nucleolus is the small circular structure within the nucleus. Here you can see this is the nucleus inside which there is a small circular structure, and that is called nucleolus. And the function is to synthesis and partially assemble the ribosomes. Now let me go through next component of nucleus, and that is a chromatin, a network of a nucleoprotein fibers. That is the chromatin is what? It is a nucleoprotein. Means nucleic acid plus protein together is called nucleoprotein fibers. So chromatin is mainly made up of nucleic acid and protein. So it is called nucleoprotein. It contains DNA. Okay, and basic proteins, that is a histone. That basic proteins are mostly histone protein. A specific name is a histone protein, and non-histone protein, and also they will contain RNA. DNA means deoxyribonucleic acid, and RNA means ribonucleic acid. So this is the composition of any chromatin. During cell division, chromatins condense to form chromosomes. So first of all, when cell is not undergoing any type of a cell division, at that time it will be show like this. Okay, like fibers, and that is called chromatin. And at the time of a cell division, it will be composed as a condense in the form of a chromosome. Now let me differentiate between chromatin and chromosome by using this diagram. So here you can see inside the nucleus in normal stage. Okay, you can see here this is unmanaged fibers or thread-like structures are there of a DNA, and that is called chromatin. So during the cell division, what they do, it will managed by using histone proteins. Okay, it will be coiled surrounding the histone protein, and by this way you can see here, first of all it will prepare a solenoid structure. Okay, it will be coiled surrounding the histone protein, and this is the histone protein you can see. Okay, and by coiling surrounding the histone protein, along with the histone protein, it will form one manageable structure, and that is called chromosome. This is a condensed form of any chromatin. So if you see uncondensed form, that is a chromatin, and if it is condensed, okay, and well managed, then it is forming a chromosome. So if you see in the chromosome here, 4 arms are there. This is arm 1, 2, 3 and 4. In between these a very important structure, and that is a centromere. Okay, and the last portion or end of these is called telomere. Now let me understand more about the chromosome. So what are the chromosomes? A chromosome is a DNA molecule with the part or all of the genetic material or a genome of an organism, or a chromosomes are vectors of hereditary. Means it will be passed from generation to generation, and that's why it is vector of a hereditary, we can say. Okay, and what is the chromatids? So chromatid is the one copy of a newly copied chromosome which is is still joined with the original chromosome by single centromere. So this is the yellow color is a centromere. So we can say that by using, or we can say two chromatid together, joined together by using centromere. Here you can see chromatid 1 and chromatid 2. So chromatid 1 and chromatid 2 joined together by using centromere in the center. Okay, and it will form whole structure, and that structure is called chromosome. Chromosomes are very important component of any nucleus. A human cell has about 2-meter long DNA distributed among its 46 type of chromosome, that is a 23 pairs. Okay, so human, you know very well, total 46 chromosomes are present. We can say that 23 pair of chromosomes are present in humans. Every chromosome has a primary constriction, and that is the centromere in the center. Okay, on the sides of each a disc-shaped structure. Here you can see, suppose this is the, here in the center there is a centromere, and along with that disc-like structures, mean these shaped structures will be attached to them, and that is called kinetochore. This is the kinetochore. You can see here, this is a pair of a kinetochore, and these play very important role during based on the position of a centromere. Chromosome can be divided into 4 types. So let me understand one by one. So metacentric chromosomes having a middle centromere forming 2 equal arms. So here you can see centromere position is in the exact middle, and that's why the arm which are formed are exactly same length. Okay, so these all 4 arms will be having a same length, and that's why the 2 equal arms will be formed, and that's why it is called metacentric chromosome. And the second type is a submetacentric chromosome, in which a centromere is nearer to one end. Okay, it is somehow not in the center exactly, and that's why they are forming one shorter arm and one longer arm. Here you can see a position is like that, one long arm will be generated and one short arm, and that's why it is called submetacentric chromosome. Third one is a acrocentric chromosome, in which centromere is close to its end, forming one very short and one very long arm. Here you can see it is very short arm and this is very long arm. So by this way, this is called acrocentric chromosome. Fourth one and last one is a telocentric chromosome. It is the exactly at the end it will be positioned, and that is called terminal centromere. So here centromere will be located is the end of the chromosome, and that's why it is called telocentric chromosomes. And some chromosomes have non-staining secondary constrictions. Here you can see this is a non-staining secondary constriction as a constant location, and such structures are called as a satellites. Now let me summarize all types of a chromosome by using this diagram. So here you can see in this diagram, this is the P arm and this is the Q arm of a chromosome, that is the chromatids. Okay, and if both the arms, which are P arm and the Q arm, if both arms length is the same and centromere is exactly located in the center, then it is considered as a metacentric chromosome. Second type, that is a submetacentric chromosome, will have a short P arm and long Q arm. So this is the identity of any submetacentric chromosomes. And here in this acrocentric chromosome, you can see P arm is very short, okay, and Q arm is very long. Okay, so by this way centromere is located. So P arm is very short and Q arm is very long, and satellite is also observed. Okay, so such a structure are considered as a acrocentric type of a chromosome. Here in this type you can see centromere is positioned at the end of the chromosome, and that's why here P arm and Q arm is not formed. So such chromosomes are considered as a telocentric chromosomes. At anaphase stage of a cell division, this chromosome will be observed in different shapes. So this is the I-shaped chromosome. Here you can see this is the rod shape or I-shaped chromosome, and if I-shaped chromosome is observed during anaphase stage of a cell division, this type of I-shaped chromosome is considered as a telocentric chromosome. Another name from such a telocentric chromosome is a monobrachial type of a chromosome, and you know very well centromere position in such a chromosome will be terminal. In acrocentric chromosome, it will appear or observe as a J shape. A second name from an acrocentric chromosome is a subtelocentric type of means subtelocentric or a cephalobrachial type of a chromosome. And you know very well the centromere location is a subterminal. Okay, that's why it is called subtelocentric type of a chromosome. Another shape is a L shape. Okay, if L-shaped type of a chromosome is appear or observed during anaphase stage of any cell division, then it is called submetacentric. Okay, so submetacentric at the time of anaphase, it will observe as a L shape. Okay, it is a submedian, you know, the centromere position will be submedian. Then if the shape of a chromosome if observed V in shape, then it is called metacentric chromosome. Another name for such a metacentric chromosome is isobracteal type of a chromosome. Okay, so you know very well what is the location of a centromere at that time. It is a median or a medium. So these are the shapes we can observe during anaphase stage of any cell division. Based on this concept, I am asking you one MCQ in next slides. Okay, and for that, for solving that, I am giving you 1 minute. Okay, and you have to solve that MCQ within 1 minute and you have to answer in a comment. So try this. Next topic is microbodies. So let me understand what is a microbodies. These are membrane-bound minute vesicles that contain various enzymes. There is enzyme-filled microbodies present in both plant cells as well as in the animal cells. So here you can see this is a membrane. Okay, membrane-bound structure in which some enzymes. Microbodies are of three types: peroxisomes, spherosomes, and glyoxysomes. So what are the peroxisomes? Peroxisomes were first discovered by D. Dewey and found in both plant and animal cells. Okay, and it contained enzymes for peroxide biosynthesis. And in plant, they do photorespiration with the help of chloroplast and mitochondria. So by using chloroplast, mitochondria in help of a chloroplast and mitochondria, photorespiration type of phenomena will occur with the help of a peroxisome. In animal cell responsible for detoxification of poisonous substances. So this is very important structure in any cell. Okay, next is a spherosome. It is discovered by Perner, okay, found in all plant cell which involve in the biosynthesis and storage of lipids. Okay, so it is very important to storage and synthesis of lipids. These are spherical or oval in shape. Function is to help in lipid synthesis and translocation of a fat. So it is related to fat. Okay, spherosome is mostly related to fats. Next is a glyoxysome. So it is a special kind of a peroxisome. It is a one type of, or we can say one modification of a peroxisome present in germinating seeds. Okay, it contains enzyme for beta oxidation of fatty acids and glyoxylate pathways. Now let me understand in detail about peroxisomes. So it is a definition: small organelle that contain a variety of enzymes which deal with the many metabolic reactions. So this is the definition of a peroxisome. Peroxisomes are responsible for the oxidation that occur inside any cell. One example is oxidation of fatty acids, which create metabolic energy in the plants and animals. So it is very important for the oxidation of fatty acids. Peroxisome contain over 50 different type of enzymes, and they are most at the use in the liver in the animals and synthesizing the bile acids. So it is playing very important role in the liver functions. They play two roles in the plant. First, it converts fatty acids in the carbohydrates in seeds for the growth energy, and second, it works in the leaves for the photorespiration to metabolize a side product of a photosynthesis, and that is the hydrogen peroxide. We can compare peroxisome with the steam locomotive, like in case of a train. So you know very well in the train, coal will be converted into energy. Okay, so here same thing will be happen, like fatty acids and bile salts, bile acids will be converted into energy by using metabolic reaction, and by this way this peroxisome play very important role in a metabolism. Breakdown of hydrogen peroxide in the cell, it is also do the breakdown of hydrogen peroxide. This hydrogen peroxide is very toxic for any cell, and that's why it will be breakdown by cell. Next type of microbodies are spherosomes. So let me understand about the spherosomes. Lipids are stored in an oil storage body, and these oil storage bodies are nothing but it is the spherosome, which range in size from 0.2 to 6.0 micrometers in diameter. Enzymes for the lipid synthesis, they will contain enzyme for the lipid synthesis, and hydrolysis are present in the spherosomes. Okay, and during germination of a lipid disappears and sucrose content in it will be increased. Means during the germination of seeds, lipid content inside that will be disappear and sucrose content will be increased. Lipase activity are increases. Lipase is the activity will degrade the lipids. So lipase activity at that time will be increased, and hydrolysis of triglycerides to di and monoglyceride will be occur. In case of a spherosome, high lipid content is associated with the low protein content in the structure. Microbody is glyoxysomes. So glyoxysomes are a specialized peroxisome. As I told you, that is one type of a modification of a normal peroxisomes, and it is found in the plants, particularly in the region of a plant where fat storage is occur or fat storage tissues are present. Specifically, we can say germinating seeds have such a type of a glyoxysome, and also it is found in the filamentous fungi. Glyoxysome possess the key enzymes of a glyoxylate cycle, and specifically these enzymes include isolated lyase and malate synthase. Glyoxysomes are found in the contact with the lipid bodies in cotyledons or endosperms, where fatty acids are being converted into carbohydrates, or specifically this is involved in the fatty acid conversion into carbohydrates during the germination. Now let me differentiate between glyoxysomes and peroxisomes. So glyoxysomes are present only in the plant cell and filamentous fungi, whereas peroxisomes are almost found in all eukaryotic cells. This is the basic difference between glyoxysomes and peroxisomes. Second, in the glyoxysome, catalysis of the formation of acetyl-CoA, it is coenzyme A, from fatty acids stored within the germinating seeds. Okay, so catalysis of formation of acetyl coenzyme A from fatty acids stored within the germinating seeds in case of a glyoxysome, whereas in case of a peroxisome, breakdown of a very long chain of fatty acids through the beta oxidation. This is the basic difference between the glyoxysomes and the peroxisomes. So now we are finishing this chapter, the chapter number 8 of unit number 3, and on finishing this chapter, on completion of this chapter, I am giving you 2 tasks. First task is to complete all questions from textbook exercises. Okay, then task 2 is to solve all MCQs from MCQ sheet which I have already provided to you, and from that you have to complete the exercise 1. Okay, and before we finish this lecture, let me go through one summary lecture or summary video in form of animation video. So look at this video.
Of the various organelles found in a cell, the nucleus occupies a place of prime importance, as it is the control center that regulates metabolic activities which keep a cell alive. Most eukaryotic cells possess a single nucleus. However, we do find cells with multiple nuclei as well as cells without a nucleus. Described by Robert Brown in 1831, the nucleus was one of the earliest organelles that scientists became aware of. The advent of the electron microscope enabled scientists to become aware of the various components of a nucleus. For instance, scientists observed that the nucleus is surrounded by a nuclear envelope or nuclear membrane that acts as a barrier between the contents of the nucleus and the other organelles present in the cytoplasm. The nuclear envelope consists of the outer membrane and inner membrane, which run parallel to each other and are separated by the perinuclear space. The outer membrane of the nuclear envelope is connected with the endoplasmic reticulum and also bears ribosomes on it. At a number of places, the two membranes fuse and give rise to minute pores called nuclear pores. These pores allow two-way movement of RNA and protein molecules between the nucleus and the cytoplasm. Present inside the nuclear envelope is the nucleoplasm or the nuclear matrix that contains a spherical structure called the nucleolus. The nucleolus lacks a membrane which makes its content continuous with the nucleoplasm. The nucleolus is a major site for active ribosomal RNA synthesis, and hence cells that are active in protein synthesis have larger and numerous nucleoli. Apart from the nucleolus, the nucleoplasm also contains chromatin, a network of highly extended and elaborate nucleoprotein fibers that mainly consists of DNA and histone proteins, though non-histone proteins are also associated with it. When a cell begins to divide, the chromatin condenses and coils to form rod-like structures called chromosomes. The DNA threads remain distributed in these chromosomes. Morphological studies of a chromosome have revealed that it consists of a primary constriction or centromere that has disc-shaped structures called kinetochores attached to its side. The parts present on either side of the centromere are called the arms of the chromosomes. Based on the position of the centromere, chromosomes can be classified as metacentric, submetacentric, acrocentric, and telocentric. In metacentric chromosomes, the centromere is exactly in the middle, forming two equal arms. In submetacentric chromosome, the centromere appears closer to one arm of the chromosome, creating two arms of unequal length. An acrocentric chromosome has its centromere located very close to one of its ends, resulting in one extremely short and one very long arm. In telocentric chromosomes, the centromere is located at one end of the single arm. At times, chromosomes have secondary constrictions at a fixed location, lending the appearance of a small fragment called a satellite. These areas of secondary constriction help in the formation of a nucleolus after cell division. Chromosomes are an important part of the nucleus as they contain the genetic code of an organism. Thus, we have seen that the nucleus, along with its components, is an important organelle as it not only coordinates the functioning of the cell but also plays a vital role in cell division.
For next 3 lectures, we will have revision test 1, 2 and 3 from chapter number 8. As we have finished this chapter, for next 3 lectures, we will revise the chapters again. Okay, in form of a MCQ practice. So, I will ask you 20 MCQ during the lectures. Okay, and during that 3 lectures, and you have to just prepare MCQs from exercise number 1, which I have already provided you in form of a MCQ sheet. So, be prepared for that exams for 3 lectures. And so be ready for chapter 8 MCQ revision test 1. Until that, goodbye.